already and can verify in their own experience the difference between being absorbed in the inner, being identified with the voice in your head, which is habitual compulsive thinking, and being in a state of alert awareness, which looks like this. You don't have to look like that, I'm acting it out. I'm just wanting to give a visual representation of it. It goes. And you may notice suddenly this is called, now, oh, by the way, there's been a lot of talk about mindfulness here. I just wanted to mention I never use the word mindfulness except when I explain why I don't use it. There's nothing wrong with mindfulness, it's just that my preference is to call it presence. Reason being, to me, mindfulness implies that your mind is full, and we don't want that. So, but if you're very welcome to use, it's perfectly fine to use that word. It's just my preference is presence. So what arises here is presence. When you become aware of your sense perceptions, there needs to be less thinking and more presence. So thinking subsides with that alertness that arises, and don't let it just be words now as I speak. You can verify in yourself that there can be a subtle shift from being involved in thinking into suddenly being fully here with your attention. Oh. So little thought now, because you can't be fully aware and be thinking. Now the next step down into the now is, as you become more aware of your sense perceptions, you may also sense the simple but beautiful fact that you are alive. And how do you sense that? That sometimes comes naturally as thinking subsides somewhat, alertness remains, and you can feel that there is an aliveness pervading your entire body. Subtle, somewhere, but you can sense that in your arms, your legs, your feet, there is an aliveness. And that can become part of your experience of the now. So now you begin to be present, what we could call present within and present without. So you can sense your own aliveness. If you can't sense it, ask yourself, for those few people here, probably very few who cannot sense the inner energy field of the body, what I call the inner body, I ask sometimes, if you close your eyes, hold your hands like this, and ask yourself, how can I know without looking or moving my hands whether my hands are still there? It's a funny question. How can I know without looking at my hands or moving my hands or touching anything, how can I know that my hands are still there? And at that moment, you cannot get a conceptual answer for that. You can only get an experiential answer by suddenly experiencing an aliveness inside your hands. And your attention has moved from thinking, has disengaged from the movement of thought, and is flowing into your hands. And in the same way, if you can feel your hands, you can feel your feet at the same time. And that you can feel the entire body as a subtle energy field. And that's a lovely place to be. And that you begin to be more rooted in the now. And you are present within and without. Being in the body, I call that sometimes an anchor for staying present. It can be helpful because the mind is the egoic mind, the unconscious mind is very clever, and if you don't, especially as you begin to practice presence, if you don't have an anchor for the present moment, the mind will very quickly come in with a thought. And that thought could be anything, but it will claim to be extraordinarily important. And it will say, follow me. You need to think about this. This requires your immediate attention at 3:30 in the morning in bed. And that thought, of course, may proliferate into other thoughts. Anxious thoughts, regretful thoughts. What about my whole life? I have to work out my life. It's all been useless. What have I done with my life? What about my life? What is my life? It's a mental construct that you call my life, and you miss the actual life in the present moment. But so you need to know that your thought it's very seductive and hypnotic, and it will come in and grab your attention again if you don't know what it's doing. But if you know that this is what it's doing, then you can say, not just say it, you can just be aware that there's another thought that wants to come in. And at that moment when there's an awareness, you don't have to follow the thought. You can just allow it to pass through your mind, and then it's gone again. And then you can say, my choice is to have my attention in the body, and you don't even have to verbalize that. The choice comes, you know that this is your choice, and then you're no longer suffering from an unpleasant, sleepless night. You're actually having a wonderful meditation and not asking that this moment should be any different from the way it is. And you sense the aliveness in your energy field. That's your life. And the present moment, the aliveness of the present moment. And then perhaps, and now, we can go even deeper. Sense perceptions, acknowledging, appreciating, feeling the energy field in the body. All these things arise in the present moment. And have you missed anything? What is it that makes up the totality of the present moment? It is sense perceptions, feelings. There may be thoughts too, coming and going. You don't have to follow them, but they still come and go, some thoughts. And then there are spaces in between the thoughts. And this is extraordinarily important, to discover that there is such a thing in you as a space between one thought and another. So there's no longer an uninterrupted stream of thinking. Suddenly, you become aware of a space. And that feels extraordinarily good and powerful. And you feel then really, you come to yourself. Not the self that has a story, not the self, the sense of self that is identified with your history, your personal history, but something that transcends your personal history, something that transcends also whatever arises in your sense perceptions. What is it, and the deepest level of now, and actually the essence of now, is this? What is it that enables you to be aware of your sense perceptions? What is it that enables you to have a thought? What is it that enables you to feel your body? So there's something else there that's not a thing, and we could call that your presence, or we could call that the space of awareness, or we could call that consciousness itself. And the most wonderful thing in your meditation is the discovery of yourself, not as a person with a limited history, that dimension still exists, but there is a deeper dimension in you where whatever happened to the person, good or bad, is transcended and becomes irrelevant. A deeper sense of beingness or self, when you can realize that that which makes your sense perception possible, any thought possible, any emotion possible, is the fact that there is the light of presence in you. In that light of presence, you perceive this room. In that light of presence, a thought comes and goes. If too many thoughts come and you